Here we go. Well, welcome everyone to day 2 of the Next Health Summit. We are thrilled to be with you and couldn't be happier. This is a deep passion of Sean and I's, as Sean has been in 30 years of corporate wellness, has traveled all over the world. I'll let him tell you a little bit about his background. And we had the privilege of working together for about a decade with the Daniel Plan. I had the honor to serve there as the founding director, and Sean pioneered our fitness. We co-authored the best-selling Daniel Plan book, 40 Days to a Healthier You. And it's really our heart's desire to share any tips and tools that have helped us along the journey and that we have seen be transformative in other people's lives. And thus the reason of us launching our Next Health Summit.
So good to be with you, Dee, and everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on day 2. And dear friend, it's been a privilege and a blessing to serve with you over all these years. And this is a monumental event, guys. We've been working on this summit for months, and oh my gosh, the experts that have been a part of our journey. Because of Dee Eastman, I have had the privilege of meeting so many people from just her sphere of influence with the Daniel Plan, and then being involved in the Daniel Plan. But I also was in corporate wellness. I still am involved in corporate wellness for over 30 years. And I need to tell you guys, and this is something that I share often, when you're in the health and wellness field, there's nothing, in my opinion, there's nothing more rewarding than helping someone improve their own personal health and wellness. But what Dee and I realized, at least I know for myself, many of the things that we're going to be sharing throughout the week, I desperately needed in my own life. And so that was one of the reasons why both Dee and I started Rise together, because we really felt like we needed to make wellness simple. There's so much information out there, right, guys? I mean, many of you are coaches, many of you you're in the health and wellness field, but Dee and I really have made it our goal to make wellness simple. How do we curate all of this information that's out there and distill it into information that is usable, actionable? And so we were our own first clients. We really realized in our own lives that we wanted to improve and change our own lives. So we're thrilled. We cannot tell you how thrilled we are that you're here with us. And we really hope and pray that this just isn't information coming your way. We really hope that you're going to be able to take just 1 or 2 things from each session, write them down. We'd love to hear from you. In fact, Dee, if you don't mind, I'm going to make a quick plug. On Facebook, on our Rise Together Today Facebook page, we'd love to have you post what you're planning to do from this session. And every time you post, you get entered into a drawing. Dee, we're going to be giving away some Tri-Best blenders. We're going to be giving away some really cool, I think we've got a juicer that we're going to be giving away at the end of the week. So the more times you post on Facebook, the more you get entered into the drawing. So post at will. We'd love to hear from you guys. So
Yes, and as we cue up Dr. Mark Hyman, I just want to say Dr. Hyman really had a transformational impact in my life. When I met him that first week of the Daniel Plan, he's so charismatic, he's so insightful. He has, I don't know how many best-selling books out now, 10, 15. His latest one that we'll talk about in the interview is The Vegan Diet. But you know, at that time, I have 5 grown kids, I have a set of triplets. I had numerous gut issues on my own, which led me down to a rabbit trail of different health challenges. And my one daughter, Megan, has a more intense form of cerebral palsy and is in a wheelchair. And with all of the dynamics that come with that, she had a lot of gut issues as well. And Mark just changed it for all of us. We changed our diet. I had no idea at that point, gosh, like 12 years ago, that I was gluten intolerant and dairy intolerant. So was Megan. So I just want you to know that the things that we're passing on today, we've been profoundly touched by ourselves, our families, and in our coaching program, it's the bedrock of our nutrition protocol, as in our Rise coaching, our 10-day detox, and our 21-day program. So with that, I just want to say, hold on to your horses. Mark Hyman has so many great things to say. And Sean, I'll let you go ahead and cue up that interview.
Yes, and you guys
may be posting in chat. If there's one takeaway that comes up that you like, or you have a question on anything, please feel free. We'll be staying in the chat the entire hour.
I was just going to say, you guys may be introduced to some of our family members that are often behind us. So
Yeah, you
you
can see Bella. I have Bella and Bear in the house right now. I'm sure they'll be wanting to make a
that's
full
awesome.
debut.
And you may meet Sophie in a little bit. She comes and joins me often. So hope you don't mind, but we have our fun family members that come in and join us. So with that, guys, we'll come back after the interview, and please hang out. We want to talk with you a little bit more about next steps. So we'd love to be with you. So hang on for just a second, and I'm going to go to share my screen. And here we go, guys. Welcome, everybody. We are super excited about an opportunity to meet with a dear friend, Dr. Mark Hyman. We're just thrilled to be with you, Mark.
So happy, Mark.
Yeah, but really, it's such a privilege to be with you. Welcome, welcome.
It's been 11 years, no, 10 years. It's been amazing. This is 10 years, the Daniel Plan.
Wow. That was an amazing 10 years.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to. I mean, you've become much more than a friend and colleague. You've become like a family friend. And we adore
Absolutely.
you and are so endlessly proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, just you have such a big heart and soul, and your desire to help others is so palatable from just first meeting you. It was like when I first met you back at Saddleback Church, it was just like, oh my gosh, I want to get to know this human being. This
yeah.
makes such a big impact in the world. So we just want to say thank you for sharing your goodness, your insight, your heart, your joy, your love. And we're really excited to be able to just have a great, I'm pretending I'm sitting down with a cup of coffee and we're just having a great time interacting today.
Yes. Okay. Coffee or tea or maybe
Yeah,
green
coffee.
juice. Green juice maybe.
I'm ready to do lemon water. How about that?
Not a frappuccino, I hope.
Lemon water.
And Mark, not like you need this, not a formal introduction. I think most people know who you are, but for those who may not know all that you've accomplished, and gosh, you've done so much for so many hundreds of thousands of millions of people around the world. I'd just like to share a little bit about you. So Dr. Mark Hyman is truly leading a health revolution, one revolving around using food as medicine. I love that, Mark, to support longevity, energy, mental clarity, happiness, and so much more. Dr. Hyman is a practicing family physician and an internationally recognized leader, speaker, educator, and advocate in the field of functional medicine, which we hope to talk with you about today, Mark. He's the founder and director of the Ultra Wellness Center, the head of strategy and innovation of the Cleveland Clinic, and the Center for Functional Medicine. And oh my goodness, Mark, 14-time New York Times.
14.
And one of them was the Daniel Plan.
Yes, sir. Yes,
That
sir.
counts.
Yeah. So, Mark, thank you so much for being with us today. And we're so looking forward to just chatting with you. And like Dee said, you're such a dear friend. And thank you. Thanks for the time together.
Of course, my pleasure. I'm fully committed more than ever to the Daniel Plan and what it stands for, which is about love and community and helping each other live better lives. And that is just where we have to go because we are in big doo-doo with our current healthcare situation.
Big doo-doo. Okay, well,
I mean, honestly, I just saw today the headline was that life expectancy has gone down worse than it's since World War II. And it's because of COVID, which is because of our diet, which is because of, our whole food system. And what shocked me, Dee and Sean, was that 63.5% of all hospitalizations from COVID were because of poor diet. So think about that for a minute. If we could, and a bunch of them, and people who went to hospital, many of them died. 600,000 people have died. So when you think about what is 63% less deaths, that's a lot. And we wouldn't be in the situation we're in if we didn't have this horrible food system that's driving our poor health. And, when we did the Daniel Plan and we launched it, was so exciting because all of a sudden at Saddleback, everything changed. The refinery changed, what was available was changed. There were no more pancake breakfasts and ice cream socials. People were jogging for Jesus and doing farms and, no more, men's breakfast with ribs and stuff. There was a little Coke here or there I could find if I hunted and gathered around, but mostly all that was gone and people took to it. And did so well, and they lost so much weight, and not only weight, but I just remember so many things. Like one woman came up to me after like the 6 weeks, the initial program, and she said, Dr. Hyman, I've been depressed my whole life. I've been in and out of psychiatric hospitals. My marriage is failing. I don't think I can work anymore. I was about to get fired. I'm on so many medications. I've been in and out of psychiatric hospitals. And she looked at me, she says, this is at 6 weeks. She says, is it possible that this food could cure my depression in 3 days? Because she was better in 3 days. And I'm like, yeah. And then she lost like 45 pounds in 6 weeks. She was happier than she'd ever been. She was off her medications. So it's really not just about the weight loss. It's about the underlying issues that you fix by focusing on the 5 principles of the Daniel plan: faith, food, fitness, focus, and friends. friends is probably the first one. I call it the love diet.
It's all about the love diet. Well, I'm going to switch us over, Mark, to speaker view so people can get a closer view of you, and launch you with a question off that. 63% is pretty staggering. And I have a quote I'd like to read from you that says, the most powerful medicine is at the end of your fork. Food is more powerful than anything in your medicine cabinet. And we love that quote. It's what you stand for, that food is medicine. So share a little bit about your personal health and nutrition journey, and what sparked your interest in studying the impact of food and how functional medicine can have an impact on one's health. We'd love to hear kind of a personal side of what got you interested in the beginning, and what have you really seen by making some shifts with nutrition?
We can't always tell the trajectory of our life looking forward, right? But we can connect the dots looking backward. And now when I look back at my life, I'm like, it's obvious that I'm doing what I'm doing now because I had set the stage early on. For my first visit to my sister, I was 15. I visited her in college in Amherst, and there was a veggie room, and people were eating all this healthy food, and they had this really thick, like dense, delicious, fresh, like whole wheat bread, and they had this crunchy peanut butter that was unprocessed, and they had honey, and I was like, I had that. I'm like, oh, I'm never going back. This is so good. And I became a vegetarian for 10 years, and then in college, I moved into a house with a group of people, and one of them was a PhD nutrition student at Cornell who was studying the bugs in the gut and ruminants, basically fiber and effect on like the microbiome. They didn't even call it back then. And he was super into nutrition science, got me very interested in it. And we cooked together every night. It was great because we had like 8 people in the house, so we never went without a home cooked meal, and you didn't have to cook every night. You just had to cook one day a week, and you were a helper one day a week. And so you got really amazing food, and it was all vegetarian at the time. We were in Ithaca, we had Musa cookbook. And I learned how to cook better, and I learned how to think all the ingredients, and I learned about making them from scratch and making bread and we made maple syrup. We had maple trees in the front of our house, and we like tapped the maple trees, and we got like one little pint of maple syrup that we each ate by the spoonful, like,
I did not know this about
yeah. And so that really set me up. And Peter, the nutrition guy who was became a professor of nutrition at the University of Buffalo, he gave me a book called Nutrition Against Disease, which was really written by Roger Williams, who was in the 50s, was discovered, some of the vitamins, and they wrote a book about biochemical individuality. And it was the first time I really began to think about how food could be used to treat disease. And this was back in the 70s. This is way, way, way long ago. And I took nutrition classes at college. So I was already set up to think about it. And I already was set up to think about systems. I studied, systems theory, and I studied ecology, and I had the brain that was ready for understanding that there's a different way of thinking about health and disease. And then I got really sick, and I went to medical school, and I got brainwashed, pretty well. And I was a good traditional doctor, but I knew something was missing, and I ended up getting very sick from mercury poisoning from going to China, and that led to a total system breakdown. And then I had to really think about what to do. Long story short, I discovered functional medicine at the time, which I thought was just, established field, but it was really just beginning, really. And the institute was established in 1991. I kind of picked it up in 97. So I just sort of got going. And I learned how the body actually works. I learned the way it's truly designed, and how we can begin to work with the body rather than against it to create health. Whether we can look at how the body functions, hence the word functional medicine, as opposed to just the diseases. So my job isn't really to diagnose and treat disease. My job is to find out where the imbalances in function are and help people regain that function, whether it's in their immune system or their digestive system or their hormones or their detox system or their brain chemistry, the structural system. And it really is so much of it is really what we do ourselves. So I would say 80% of our health is not what happens at the doctor's office. Diabetes isn't cured in the kitchen. I mean, it isn't cured in the doctor's office or the hospital. It's cured in the kitchen, in the grocery store, on the farm. And so I began to just think more in a big picture way about everything. And then I started to use food as medicine, which was just shocking to me to see. Like I would start out, I was like, okay, well, you have migraines and maybe you've got some food sensitivities. Let's just do an elimination diet and see. You've had migraines for 40 years and you've been in bed half the month. Like, let's just try this. It can't hurt. And people go, oh, I'm cured. I'm like, what? Or they say, one guy came up to me at Cleveland Clinic and he said, I have rheumatoid arthritis. Is it possible that just doing the 10-day detox diet, just 10 days, that all my pain and inflammation was gone? I'm like, yeah. It's like, and so I began to hear these stories and I was incredulous because it was out of my framework. Even though I believed it was true, I didn't know how powerful it was. And I can even share a story of a patient who just, was just so transformative. And we had so many of those cases but hers was so striking, which was, Janice, do you mind if I show a picture? Or,
No,
I can share it. I'll share it on, if you give me permission, I can share something. And she was so sick, and we didn't have that many medical appointments left because we were so busy at Cleveland Clinic, but we ended up having this group model, which, by the way, was modeled after the Daniel Plan. So we designed a secular version of the Daniel Plan for the patients there to get in. And I'm just going to share her case now. So this is Janice. You can see she's quite overweight. All right, we'll just do a full screen here so you can see. She's quite overweight, and she had diabetes, on insulin for 10 years. She was heart failure. Her heart wasn't pumping very good. She had high blood pressure. She had kidneys were going, her liver was going, and she was a mess. And she was exhausted. And her copay for her medications was $20,000 a year. So all we did was put her on essentially what is the 10-day plan in the Daniel Plan book. It's essentially what we've been using. But you stay on it for more than 10 days, obviously. If I call it the 10-year plan, people would never buy the book. So I had to call it the 10-day plan so people would buy the book. But truly, it's a bait and switch model, because people go, oh, I feel so good. And then they're like, I'm going to stay on this. I'm like, good. That's the whole point. And anyway, she was so miserable and was about to die, really. She was on her way to a heart transplant and a kidney transplant. 3 days changing her diet to whole foods diet, she got off her insulin. In 3 months, she got off all her meds. Her A1C, which is a measure of your blood sugar, was 11, which is really horrible. Like, it means her blood sugars are running 300-400 all the time. And within 6 weeks, her blood sugars went to totally normal. She didn't have diabetes anymore. Her heart failure reversed. Her kidneys got better. Her liver got better. Her blood pressure went to normal. She got off all her medications. And in a year, this is what she looked like.
Oh my goodness.
So this is what happens when you change food. So when I say what's at the end of your fork is more powerful than what's in a prescription bottle, I'm not just being, hyperbolic or, over promising. There is no drug that could take her from heart failure, kidney failure, diabetes, hypertension, and a number of other problems, angina, and get her off of all that and get her to look like this. There is no drug that can do that. It just doesn't exist. And yet food is that powerful. And yet we don't really think about it that way. And the reason most doctors don't see it is because they say, oh, just eat better, exercise more. And the patient goes home and goes, I don't know what that means. And there's no clear direction. And also doctors haven't seen it. They haven't ever witnessed the power of food because they don't know how to prescribe it. They don't know the dose. They don't know the medicine, literally the medicine that you need. Because not everybody needs the same medicine, right? Not everybody needs the same diet. It's about personalization. It's about food as medicine. That's really why I wrote my book, The Pekin Diet, which is, I've written enough books already, but I wrote this one because I think, people need a simple, it's very skinny. It's like a skinny book. It's simple how-to guide on how to understand two fundamental principles around food that change everything. One, food is medicine, and two, nutrition needs to be personalized. And those two things are not something we really ever learn about in medical school.
I love it. I have it right here. I have like devoured the book. I think it's so practical. Sean and I were talking, I think just that you cover 21 principles that really help you not only change, but sustain positive change with vibrancy of health for the long haul. It really gives you a philosophy of how to move forward with food, a whole different type of relationship with food.
Yeah.
I love that you have guidelines. I love that there was a Stan Gundry, Dr. Stan Gundry said, one of Mark's greatest attitudes is his ability to change his mind and advice when new evidence and studies prompt course correction. This ability is on display in the vegan diet, where hard and fast rules give the way to savvy, doable guidelines for achieving optimal short and long-term health. To achieve optimal short and long-term health. It's great advice without the my way or the highway philosophy, what you think. So buy this book. So when you talk about personalization,
that's a good quote. From the book. I know, but like I don't read them. I'm like, oh, whatever.
Yeah, but I love it. But Sean and I just devoured it. And I just want to say, when you talk about locating imbalances, that food is medicine, let's personalize it. Tell us a little bit, what is your main food philosophy? I know you're not going to cover all 21 areas, but if you were to kind of summarize the main food philosophy of how to really obtain this optimal short-term and long-term health improvements, how would you substantiate it?
It's really embarrassing because it's so obvious. It's not like there's some giant revelation. Don't eat junk and processed food. I mean, I always say there's no such thing as junk food. There's junk and there's food. So get rid of all processed food. I always said, when I was talking at the Saddleback Church, I'd say, it's really easy to figure out what to eat. When you pick it up, look at it and go, did God make this or did man make this? If God made it, you can eat it. If man made it, probably not, right? So did God make an avocado? Yeah. Did he make a Twinkie? No. It's like even a 3-year-old can understand that. So that's a really simple principle that I would start with. Eat real food. Eat only food. When I go to the grocery store, what's in my cart is food. It's not stuff that you wouldn't recognize if you saw it at its original state on a farm somewhere, right? It's a vegetable, it's a fruit, it's a nut, if you buy chicken or fish, you don't necessarily see the whole thing, but you're not buying a cow, but you know it's just what it is. It doesn't need a nutrition facts label or an ingredient list. There's no ingredients, right? That's not to say you can't eat stuff with ingredients. I do, of course I do. There's ingredients and things. I may have coconut yogurt. It's got coconut and probiotics and this and that, and whatever. Like it's fine, but as long as you know what it is. Second principle is think of quality, because aside from the two principles of food as medicine and personalized medicine, quality is a really important metric because not everything is the same. For example, there's a great study I quote in the book about meat. If you look at kangaroo meat, and in Australia, they eat a lot of it. So they had actually, a lot of it to study. And they compared people who ate kangaroo meat, the same amount of meat as regular feedlot factory farm meat. And they checked their biology, what happened. Even though it was ounce for ounce, the same amount of protein, you could analyze it as a macronutrient composition would be identical, but the information in the food was different. And in the kangaroo meat, it reduced inflammation. In the feedlot meat, it raised inflammation. And inflammation is associated with every single known disease. So meat is not meat is not meat. Same thing with anything. Grains are not grains are not grains. If you're eating a hybridized form of wheat, this is a great example. If you're eating, I just sort of use this example. If you're eating wheat that's grown in their modern conditions, which is hybridized wheat that's dwarf-free, super starch. So the sugar in that is worse than table sugar for your blood sugar. It's bred in a way that adds more gluten proteins in there. So you got way more gluten and way more inflammatory gluten proteins. Then they often spray it at harvest to dry it out with glyphosate. So there's a known biotoxin in the food that causes disruption of your microbiome. And then they preserve it with calcium propionate, which causes behavioral and cognitive impairment in kids and adults too. So that's our modern wheat. Now that grain is very different. If you're going to make pancakes from that, And in my book, I have a great pancake recipe. It's not like you don't get to have pancakes, right? Remember the pancake breakfast? We can go back to that at the church if it's the right pancakes. And these pancakes are they're chai buckwheat pancakes. Now, you can use any buckwheat, but I found a buckwheat from the Himalayas, which is an ancient grain that is grown in rough conditions because the plant's so stressed in its habitat because of local water and high altitude and temperatures and bad soil. It produces all these defense mechanisms. It's like becomes more robust, right? If you force something to work hard, it's going to become stronger. That's what we call hormesis. In other words, if you lift weights, your muscles get injured, but then they get stronger. Right? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger is the idea, basically, right? And this plant has 132 phytochemicals. It's much higher in protein than other grains, lower in starch and sugar, way more minerals like magnesium, zinc, and has 132 phytochemicals, which rejuvenate your immune system. So if you make pancakes from that versus regular flour, even if it's a cup of flour, it's very different. So same thing with vegetables. If you're eating a vegetable that's a wild strawberry, it's gonna be very different than you're eating some commercially raised strawberry. Or like sometimes you go in the farmer's market and you get the local organic strawberries, and it's like a little thing. It's little, but it's like, oh my God, it's like an explosion of flavor. And flavor, which is really the cool part, flavor correlates with the nutrient density of the food. Right? So if you,
I did not know that.
right. So the reason these plants taste good, right? If you eat, I don't know if you've ever done this. If you ever had a garden and you go pick an asparagus or pick broccoli and just eat it, it tastes profoundly different than you get in the store. Even if you buy organic, if it's been sitting on the shelf or whatever, because these degrade. And so phytochemicals are these, there's 25,000 of these. This is the medicines in food. These are the things that drive health or disease. If you don't have them, you get sick. If you have them, you say, well, so things people know about this, like, oh, I'm having turmeric and curry, that's yellow spice, or I'm having broccoli and it's got, glucosinolates, or I'm having red wine, has resveratrol, or like people know about this a little bit. Blueberries, why should we eat blueberries? Because they're full of colorful pigments that are these phytochemicals, and they have powerful healing properties. And if you're eating a wild blueberry, it's better than eating a regular organic blueberry. It's better than eating a commercially raised blueberry, right? So, and the taste of the wild blueberry be so profoundly different. The taste of the wild strawberry is profoundly different, and the taste and the phytonutrients and the medicine all go together. So that's the good news. You get more tasty food. And Dan Barber from who is an incredible chef, written a lot of books, and he created a company called Row 7 Seeds, where they're breeding plants for flavor, not for how much shelf stability they have, or how much starch they have, or whether they look the right way. It's like they're breeding them for flavor, and that's what we should be thinking about. So, and then of course, other principles are we should be eating a plant-rich diet. So lots, 80% of your plate should be plants. Like at night, I usually have 2 or 3 vegetable dishes, mushrooms, maybe sweet potato, a bunch of greens or something. And then you want to eat good fats, avocados, olive oil, nuts and seeds, good fatty fish. You want to make sure you're eating grains. If you're eating grains and you're not having issues, health issues, that you need to avoid them. But if you eat grains, make sure they're the right grains. Eat weird stuff. Eat weird food. Like I went to the grocery store the other day and I bought cauliflower, but it was like I'd never seen it before. It was like this purple, deep purple cauliflower thing, and I think it was cauliflower. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna eat this. It's weird food. So whenever I see weird food, I buy it. Like I was in Hawaii and I eat all these fruits I never ate before. I ate all these vegetables I never ate before. I'm like, oh, that's weird. I'm gonna eat that. Because when it's weird, it's often more likely to be in its sort of original state. It hasn't been highly bred or all the good stuff left out of it. And so it's really important to eat that. So, and as far as protein goes, I think, we want to make sure that we're thinking about our time of our life, what we're doing, our activities. So if you're younger and you're relatively healthy, you probably can do okay with a lot of plant proteins. But as you get older, you need more animal protein to synthesize muscle and build muscle. And you need the quality of the protein, right? Meat isn't meat. And it's the same thing. And you just have, like I said, with the kangaroo meat, you have to know the quality. And also, I encourage people to personalize their nutrition, figure out what works for them, right? Don't let your ideology run over your biology. If you believe you should be vegan, but you feel like crap being a vegan, don't be a vegan. Like, if you stop having your period, if you're iron deficient, if you're vitamin D deficient, if you're tired and you're weak and you wonder why you don't have energy, well, maybe it's not the right food for you. And so don't get hung up on your beliefs. Listen to your body. Your body's the smartest doctor in the room, and it will tell you what you need, and then you experiment. So those are some of the basic principles. There's a lot of stuff in there about how to eat for mood, how to eat for your gut, how to eat for longevity, how to eat for a personalized approach to eating, how to find out what foods you need. All that's in there, how to feed your kids. So there's how to eat for, in affordable ways. It's high quality, but doesn't break the bank. So there's a lot of really practical stuff in the book.
Yes, I just want to say, get the book. You haven't
Get the book. Get the book. Get the book. Get the book.
Really
Get the book.
You have a cookbook companion, the food. You have one about like, what the heck should I eat? Another delicious cookbook. So make sure to get this. I just want to say, you just shared a boatload of great information. I don't even know how to begin to unpack all of it. I just want to say a couple.
I just want to catch my breath. I could have gone on.
I have a question for you, Mark. I have a question.
But I have to say one really quick comment. It just makes me motivated to get to the store. Like, one thing about you, Dr. Hyman, is it's like you're so motivated, because when you think about food as information, food giving you the power to heal, food, with the gal that you showed, making the, being able to get off of all medication, it's really very motivating to say, like, hey, I want a different relationship with food. I want to like start really looking at what I'm putting on the end of my fork, and I want to see it affect me, body, mind, and soul. Body, mind, and spirit. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. So Sean, I'll just let you launch your question, but I just want to say, like, it takes all of our bars up a notch, not in a negative way, like, oh, I've got to eat better, but like, oh my gosh, I get to go to the store. I get to try something weird. I get to look at food as giving me information to heal.
Yes.
So I just want to say, yay, And I have so much more, but I'll let Sean get a word in edgewise here.
Well, it's Mark, what you've done is so remarkable, is you've just made nutrition simple. Yeah, and that's what we love about this book, and your philosophy and your research and everything that you do. Curious, you just talked about all the foods that you'd recommend and the principles you'd recommend. Are there any foods that you'd recommend that we stay away from, that we put out?
Well, it was sort of what I said earlier, right? So the thing that's not food. I mean, anything goes when it comes to food. Even, like, I would say, people are like extreme in some ways, and the whole point of the vegan diet is get away from the extremism. There was a joke between paleo and vegan, right? The paleo guys are fighting with the vegan guys, and they're all yelling at each other, and it's like worse than Democrats and Republicans, or Israelis and Palestinians, or it's like, it's terrible, and it's so unnecessary, because when you look at the paleo and vegan world, they're actually identical except for where they get their protein. They both think we shouldn't have dairy, whole foods are good, and lots of nuts and seeds, good fats, except the only difference is grains or beans or animal food. That's it. And so I think I want people to understand that if you're looking at what to avoid, it's essentially things that you wouldn't basically have in your cupboard. Like, do you have a bottle of high fructose corn syrup in your cupboard? No. Do you have butylated hydroxytoluene in your cupboard, or BHT, which is a preservative in every processed food? Do you have MSG? Maybe you do. Some people can buy MSG, but most of the stuff is like, why would I eat that? And so just look at the label and you go, oh, if it doesn't say tomato or salt or, whatever, then don't eat it. The second thing I would say is the real concern I have, and this is a problem at Saddleback, was so many people are metabolically unhealthy. So what does that mean? Well, 88% of Americans, according to a new study, are metabolically unhealthy. That means 12% of Americans are metabolically healthy. Now, what does metabolically healthy mean? It means you have a normal blood sugar, a normal blood pressure, and a normal cholesterol. 12%. Okay, that means 88% are metabolically unhealthy. And that, all those issues, blood sugar, blood pressure, cholesterol, abnormalities, are all the result pretty much of starch and sugar. So you're saying, what should I avoid? I would say, do I eat sugar? Of course I do. But it's a recreational drug. It's not an everyday, all day experience. And if you look at the way our culture is, we've put sugar in everything. It's in breakfast cereal, which is 75% sugar. It's in salad dressing. Why would you put sugar in salad dressing? There's more sugar in your serving of tomato sauce that you get from the jar than there is in 2 Oreo cookies. So it's everywhere. So be careful about sugar. It's the hidden sugar. It's not necessarily what you add, it's what corporations add to your food. So, and sugar is a real problem. The second is flour. Because we eat everything is flour in this country. It's mostly wheat. It's all the problems that I just talked about with wheat. But the truth is that the wheat that we have now, as I mentioned earlier, raises your blood sugar more than table sugar. So if you think bagel, bowl of sugar, you should be thinking identical, or maybe the bagel's worse. Okay, and people don't really get that. They go, "Oh, I'm having a piece of bread, or I'm having crackers, or I'm having pasta, or I'm having pizza, whatever it is." It's so much. We eat 133 pounds a year per person of flour, and 152 pounds of sugar. That's almost a pound of flour and sugar a day. That's like that much flour and sugar per person. That's just not biologically feasible for us as humans. We never had grains. We never had historically flour. If we found something, we'd be getting honey, and we, like the Nepalese honey hunters, we'd have to climb a tree, risk our lives, bring a branch of burning fire to smoke the bees out, get the honey, climb down, and then it was a project. Like if you had to go get in a beehive and get your honey, every time you that's fine, but that's okay. But it's really the amount and the volume. So I think sugar and starch are the real deadly ones.
That's just so helpful. Okay, so I love that you talked about that 88% of people are metabolically unhealthy, and just by making some shifts with starch and sugar, you can see a profound impact for improving. We have seen that at Rise, my whole time with the Daniel Plan, Sean's time in corporate wellness as well. But when you make a few shifts just in those areas alone. And on the positive side, I love the part of what to infuse. I love that you said eat real food, focus on things that are nutrient dense, focus on the quality of food. But you said something that was interesting that I was really profoundly impacted by you upon first meeting you, is you said eat 75% of your diet from like a plant-rich diet. So what happened to me, I come from an Italian background. So maybe my plate might have looked like pasta, even if it was a healthy type of grain, even if it was like some type of a specialized pasta, it might have been a big portion of that. And then it might have been maybe a meatball or two. And it might have been a really teeny little salad, or maybe a few string beans. That was what was kind of normal growing up, those type of ratios. Or maybe it would have been a big steak and a big mashed potato, and then a little bit of string beans or a little bit of the side salad. So what shifted for me with you is I could still do a pasta primavera and have a very small amount of like a quinoa type pasta with a really deliciously grass-fed meatball, and then have 3 different types of vegetables. The shape of my plate started changing.
Yeah.
And I think you say, hey, you could have like roasted cauliflower, you could have a vegetable medley, you could do a stir fry. So now it's like, how many vegetables can I get on my plate, starting with my morning? If I'm going to do a smoothie, a bowl with like spinach and chia and amazing low glycemic berries, or if I'm going to do a veggie scramble, or if I'm going to do dinner for breakfast. Now it's like, how much veggies can I get in each and every day?
Yeah. I mean, like last night, it doesn't have to take long. Like last night, I had 12 pieces of grass-fed steak, but then I had to have like an extra plates for my vegetables. It would all fit on my plate. So I put a sweet potato in the oven before I went for my bike ride. So it takes about an hour. So I went for an hour, came back, my sweet potato was done. I chopped up some greens, some broccoli rabe, and sliced some garlic. I'm kind of lazy. I got the peeled garlic, chopped it up, stir fried. It takes about 5 minutes. The meat took about 5 minutes, maybe 8 minutes. And then sweet potato was done. And then I had some mushrooms that I threw in the oven. They were like shiitake mushrooms, just roasted mushrooms, some olive oil, salt, and pepper. And it was like really quick, and it didn't take me forever. And it was delicious. And I got 3 vegetable dishes and a little bit of meat. And that was my dinner. So I think, that's what I do pretty much every night. I don't know what I'm having tonight, though, but I got a lot of vegetables.
It's a huge takeaway. And if I were to show you John and I's fridge right now, it would just be like stock. It's a huge, we've taken your food philosophy into our followers at Rise, just to say like, this is a beautiful way to eat. And it doesn't even have to be that hard. It actually can be not only nutrition made simple, but wellness made simple, but infusing like 75% of your plate. And I think your palate starts changing as you eliminate the sugar and the starch.
where you start craving those things, and those things are so satisfying. It's just letting our palate get in alignment by ditching the starch and the sugar, giving them a little break with a 10-day detox or what have you, to really embrace all those great foods for you.
Well, that's a very good point, Dee. I think, most of us have our taste buds, our brain chemistry, our hormones, our metabolism, all been hijacked by the food industry. And I mean that like literally, that the molecules in our body are driving us to crave and want the wrong things. And like you said, when you switch things out and you put in all the good stuff, quickly everything resets. It doesn't take a long time, like literally days. And all of a sudden the cravings are gone. You're not hungry all the time. You're eating, wanting the good stuff. Like I just, if I see a cookie, unless I'm like had a bad day or depressed, it doesn't look like food to me anymore. It doesn't call my name. Like I don't deprive myself. Like if I want some, I'll eat it. If I want to, have French fries, I'll eat French fries. But like, it's just like, ugh, I don't want that. It makes me feel gross. It doesn't taste good. It's like, it doesn't, like, it tastes awful. Like when I had a friend who's a nutritional psychologist, and he worked at Canyon Ranch, and he met this guy. I love telling the story. He met this guy, came in to see him. He said, look, I got to lose 50 pounds, but I don't really want to change my lifestyle. And I'm just busy. And what I do is I go to Burger King, and I just order and I eat in the car, and I go home because I'm busy and I have to work. He's like, okay, well, go ahead and eat your big Whoppers. But what I want you to do is I want you to get out of the car. I want you to go inside. I want you to sit down, and I want you to breathe deeply. And I want you to savor and chew every bite. And it was the best food you ever ate. And enjoy it. And so he does that. He comes back. He goes, it was disgusting. I couldn't eat it. It was terrible. Because people are often not even clued into what they're actually experiencing and how it actually tastes. I mean, I actually got in trouble once because I was in an airport. I was traveling, and usually I don't get in a food emergency. I have food with me, but I was on a lunch and I ran out or whatever happened. And I'm like, I had to go and eat. I was like, okay, I'm going to get like a chicken sandwich from McDonald's because they have like chicken breast. And I'm like, going to try that. And I don't know what they do to their chicken breast, what they inject into it or what they do to it, but it was like the worst tasting thing ever. It was like super salty, and all these weird flavors. They were artificial. And I'm like, this is awful. And I just couldn't eat it. So I think, if we really tune into what our bodies want, they start to want the right things. Like you want exercise, you want to eat the right food, you want to get enough sleep. And what strikes me so much, Dee and Sean, is as a doctor doing this for, God, almost scary now, almost 40 years. Yeah. Okay, it's hard to say. That most people don't connect the dots between how they feel and what they eat.
Yeah.
And they don't know how bad they feel until they start feeling good.
Interesting.
And I'm like, this is normal. It's normal to be achy when I get up. It's normal to have post-nasal drip. It's normal to have headaches. It's normal to have bloating. It's normal my skin's not so good. It's normal to whatever. Like, it's just, none of that's normal. Those are all signs of imbalance that are often caused by food. Now, it's not the only thing. People can get toxins. They can get infections like Lyme disease. People can get allergies. There's stuff that happens to people it's not their fault, right? Like me, I'm a great example of that. I had mercury from China. I had mold in my house. I got Lyme disease. None of those were lifestyle diseases, right? I got all this stuff. And of course, then my thing is I have to figure it out so I can get better. Then I have to treat everybody else and tell them how to get better. But I don't wish that job on anybody. Hopefully I'm done. But I think I keep going because I had back surgery and I have to figure out actually how to get a back pain for the first time in 30 years. So it's really, I learn every day.
Well, I love that you help all of us learn with what you have researched, what you've experienced. And I feel like your journey has been so profound and has had this ripple effect of goodness for those of us really around the nation and the world, with you spreading the good news of really how to integrate this as a lifestyle. So thinking of everything we've experienced over the last year and a half, if you were to say some kind of next health steps for those of us really wanting to strengthen our immune system, to improve our state of well-being, I know that's a very broad question, but I think I'd love to know, like, what are some next steps that you see? We already know now what to do in our eating life. What are some other lifestyle approaches that you would think, or anything else you'd like to say on strengthening the immune system and adding in mental well-being as well?
Sure. I think food is relatively easy in a sense because it's circumscribed. Some of the other things are harder. I would say you have to figure out what works for you. And for me, I figured out, like today, I sort of do have my routine, which I try to do. So I woke up, I journaled, because that really helps me get grounded. I wake up, I put some nice music on, I sit by myself, and I just feel what I'm feeling and feel what's coming up for the day. And I kind of just sort of, whether I'm happy or sad or I'm learning something, I'm always learning something. So that helps me get grounded. And then I have my workout with my trainer, which I do on Zoom. And then I use a thing called TV12 Sports, which is awesome. It's 30 minutes, it's $50, super affordable. And I do that. And then I had a bike ride. And I'll do meditation after this conversation. I took a steam and I worked in between. So I just designed it so I can work and do my thing. So it's not like I'm not working, but I basically designed the things that help to support my health. And I'll make sure I wind down tonight. I don't watch my screens. I read and maybe take a bath and have a quiet evening, and then get into bed and go to bed and have a good 8 hours sleep. And so those are my tools, and I take my supplements, and I just make sure I also build community. So I'm always connected to my friends. I'm talking on the phone or FaceTime, even if I'm like by myself, which I'm now, or if I'm, having the opportunity, I'll go be with a group of friends that really supports me and loves me and nourishes me. So it's all those pieces, and we have to build community and relationships. We have to build our movement habits. We have to build our sleep habits, our ways of handling stress. And I think, for most people, life is just very stressful. So you have to actively work to mitigate that by looking at your thoughts and your inner dialogue, by looking at, the beliefs and things you have. There's a lot of tools for that. I think there's a lot of tools for that.
Mark, it's interesting as you were talking about the 10-day approach, this idea of trying something for 10 days. We have a client of ours that followed your philosophy for 10 days and continued, like you mentioned, the 10 days.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
No worries. You need to get that?
No. I feel bad because it's on my computer, it just goes off. So
the person just followed your approach, your detox for 10 days, and kept going because he felt so good. Now he's 200 pounds down, Mark, which is
wow,
unbelievable, right? Like the picture you showed. And it just makes me think about, if you were to recommend the first step, like what would be the first step that you'd recommend for folks? Especially, it's been such a crazy year, so much stress, so much going on, physically, emotionally. If there were one thing that, and I know it would probably vary for each person, but
I'm gonna quote one of our favorite people, Pastor Rick Warren, who says, "Every body needs a buddy. Every body needs a buddy." My version is getting healthy is a team sport. So I would just find one person, just one person, or maybe if you have a small group, it can be just one person, and be on the journey with them, walk with them, bring them, invite them over to cook with you, go shopping together, start a little meditation group, whatever is lighting you up. Get support, because doing it on your own is hard. And it can be using Rise. It can be being in a faith-based small group. It can be like we have at Cleveland Clinic doing group models for shared medical appointments. It can be an online coaching program like Vita or Berta for diabetes. So there's all sorts of opportunities to get people connected. But doing it on your own is hard. Life is not meant to be lived solo. I mean, we are social creatures, and we need that intimacy and connection in order to inspire us. So that's an important piece of advice. And the other thing is, if you're going to do one thing, and you want to do one thing and make a big difference, just stop starch and sugar. Just do it for a month and see what happens. How do you feel? And that means flour and sugar. And even, potatoes and rice and all that stuff. Like, just see what happens. Because most people have never done that. as an experiment. And if you want to go crazy, you can just also, you know, you can also take out dairy, because some people are reactive to dairy, and then try to add in some veggies. And, you know, it doesn't have to be hard, but, you know, green smoothies are great. You can, if you don't want to cook veggies, you can just throw everything in the blender, you know, Vitamix, and then, you know, I throw avocados, olive oil, greens, you know, stuff, anything in there, and it'll all turn into like soup basically, and then you can just drink it, and it's a great way to get your veggies.
That's very motivating and very doable. Just to say, okay, if there's one thing, I'm going to grab a buddy. I'm going to connect here at Rise. I'm going to connect with community, with family. I'm going to check out something online, whatever is a good match. And then to say for food, I'm just going to like ditch the sugar and starch, and I'm going to start adding in the veggies. Just that simple shift is so profound. It takes down the inflammation, the cravings, all of it. I love that you also said, Mark, what your routine was like. That you said, hey, like I have community, I'm going to do some meditation. I did some strength work with my routine, my fitness routine. I look at sleep habits. I look at kind of my nighttime routine. You taught us early on with the Daniel Plan about AM, PM routine and protecting the bookends of your day. Brian Johnson, a coaching program I did for a couple of years, really focused on AM, PM routine as well. You also said, like, be so clear on what energizes you. Like whatever energizes you for your AM routine and PM routine, like put those things in. So I just think, you know, the food is such a huge part of all of it. And then these lifestyle practices make a great foundation of how do I complement things that really energize my life in these areas. And you've been such an example. I think one time you said after a bad day, you're like, well, Dee, I just reboot. You know, I've had a bad day. I go on my mountain bike, I get out in nature. I come back, maybe do a little sauna, then I cook a great dinner. And I was like, I can do that. I can turn my day around with a few simple practices.
Yeah, I mean, I just to be transparent. So the day before yesterday, I had a really stressful, emotional day, and I didn't sleep that great, and I was kind of tired the next day, and I did a few things, and so I was like feeling down and just crappy. So my work day got done, and about 4 o'clock, and I meditated. And I got all my energy back, and then I went for a nice bike ride in the afternoon, late afternoon, came back, put the sauna on, give myself some love, made a nice dinner, and just I changed my whole state. And I think this is a really interesting concept that most people don't get, which is how can you change your state? If you're sad, if you're tired, if you're sore, if you're frustrated, if you're angry, if you're whatever, hurt, how do you change your state? And I think it's something we have access to, and there are tools to do that. Tony Robbins talks about it. You know, it could be just deep breathing. It could be, you know, doing 50 jumping jacks or burpees. It could be taking a walk in the woods. It could be taking a bath. It could be, you know, calling a friend. It could be, you know, giving yourself a foot massage. It could be whatever, you know, you've got to figure out how to change your state. I know how to change my state. One of my favorite ways is a sauna or steam and an ice bath. Like if I do that, whatever, I'm stressed or I'm worried, it's like it just changes my physiological state. You know, ice cold shower in the morning. I love that. It's like a change of state. So I wake up, I'm like, oh, like jump in the ice cold shower. It's like, oh, this is really good. Don't even need my coffee. So
that's like perfect. I think when you talk about things that energize your life, to feel like we actually hold the key in our hand to change our state. I feel like we can have anything happen, any stress is gonna hit, it's inevitable. So to have some tools in our back pocket that we know we can pull out each and every time that really work for each one of us, you know, is invaluable. We say at Rise, the day you need to mostly stick to your protocol, the things that really energize you is on your worst day. Because on your best day, you really are doing fine. It's on the worst days, it's like, hey, wait a minute, let me just get out in nature for a little bit for me. Let me take a short walk. Let me infuse with some amazing food, call a friend, maybe journal. Those are what energize me. But I know that better than anything. When I hit the slump, I have a bad phone call, I have a bad interaction, or just the weight of life is stressful and heavy. Those things really matter. So I think for those to just identify those energizers. And when it comes to food, Mark, I just want to say one thing in closing, and then I'll let Sean add a final note and comment. This is one of my favorite quotes that you gave us back in the Daniel Plan days. And I put it over and over and over. And I think it's a blessing just to share it. It says the reason to eat real food is not just to fit into your jeans or to look good in a dress, but to be awake to the beauty and the miracle of life, to be able to live with purpose, to love, to serve, to connect, and to celebrate the gifts that God has given you.
Did I say that?
Yes, you did.
Oh, dude. Okay. All right. Well, that's good. I'll buy into that. I agree with that. I agree with
I
that.
just want to say, get the vegan diet. There's so much beauty to be awake to the beauty and miracle of life. These principles are invaluable. And I'm wondering, what is the best way for people to connect with you? They can obviously
Yeah.
grab
I
your
think-
book, and then
I
you
think
have so much during the week with Mark's picks and everything else.
Yeah, sure. So, the basic, go to my website, drhyman.com. There's a lot there. I have Mark's Picks you can sign up for, which is a weekly newsletter that gives you all my favorite stuff and how to get healthy. You can join Dr. Hyman Plus, which is a subscription service for a year where we do a question and answer like this every month. We do a deep dive in functional medicine. You get free access to my all my documentaries and ad-free podcasts. You can check out my podcast, which is Doctor's Pharmacy, which is great. And I think and my social media, which is Dr. Mark Hyman, Dr. Mark Hyman, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and then there's plenty there. And I think there's a lot of great content we put out every week. I do a lot of deep dives at health issues on Fridays with my doctors at the Ultra Wellness Center. We go into really deep dives around how do you approach irritable bowel, or reflux, or infertility, or migraines, or depression, or whatever it is. We go way into it and help people navigate, and it's really satisfying. So that's how you can find me.
That sounds perfect. So Sean, you're on mute.
I was just saying, we just want to encourage everyone to check out Dr. Hyman's work. And Mark, can I just say, on behalf of Dee and myself and the thousands and millions of people, you have helped so many.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
really have, Mark, and I know all the research, all the work, all the studying, all the writing, all the work that you've done. I was going to ask you in closing, Mark, if you had a wish for 2022, right? If you had a wish, and Dee kind of read it. She read your wish. It sounded so beautiful. Your blessing for all of us. And
Yeah.
but any closing thoughts, Mark, from your end?
I mean, I think how I feel about this whole COVID this disaster that's happened to humanity is that it's sort of God's way of giving humans time out. So you guys need to go to your room, stay inside, and figure out what doesn't work about your life and what does, and get rid of the things that don't work and invite in the things that do work. And I've certainly done that. I realized that, I mean, I'm like everybody else. Like I during COVID, I stayed home, and it was the first time I've been off the road in 30 years. And I literally didn't get on a plane, get in a bus, car, train. And it changed my life because I realized I was running my machine so hard that it wasn't good for me. And I was trying to help everybody else, but it wasn't good for me. And so I think I encourage everybody to just like look at their life and go, we don't want to go back to normal. Normal wasn't good. We want. So I would invite everybody to find ways to slow down, to connect to what matters to their community, their family, their purpose, to connect to their bodies. And if I had one wish, it would be that.
I love it.
Oh, that's beautiful. We love you so much. We're so thankful, eternally grateful, and sentimental even just saying it, because your work has been so profound, and your love honestly has just been so far reaching, because not just your work and your research and your brilliance, because you are all of that, but you deliver it with such love and care and tenderness. So I just want to say thank you.
Oh, Dave, thank you. I love you guys so much. I miss you. This is terrible. Let's get back together. We need to put the band back together.
Put the band back together. Well, thank you so much. You guys enjoy everything on the site. Enjoy getting his book. And just once again, thank you so much, Mark. You're amazing.
Thank you, guys.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
He's so great, isn't he? I mean, I loved all the chat that's been going on. There was so many key takeaways. I think the bottom line is that we can all have a different relationship to food. that he does really wind it down in his numerous books. His latest, The Pegan Diet, we really highly recommend. We do build our foundational nutritional principles on this in our the programs that we offer here at Rise. And it's so fantastic just to know that food is medicine and food can heal us. And I would just say, stay connected. Oh, I see Chef Jenny Ross is in the house. So Jenny, you're the perfect one to say food is medicine, because we just had this awesome hour with Mark, you know, just talking about the healing and transformative nature of food. And he broke it down into so many practical areas of getting away from extremism and just focusing on the basics. If it was grown on a plant, eat it. If it was made in a plant, don't. Right?
It is so good. Jenny, we're so excited about your segment. We were just closing up Dr. Hyman's. D, a couple things that really, I mean, I've got so, you know, taking so many notes from just our interview with him. I mean, I love what he said in closing. I love this, D. Focus on what works and what doesn't work. I mean, the simplicity of that, like, what is it that we're doing in our lives that's just not working, right? He talked about how COVID has really impacted us and how some things we need to learn. And I just love the simplicity, and you emphasize this, D, stopping the sugar and the starch. Like, we have seen lives transform just by doing that simple step of stopping the sugar and the starch. And I think more when he quoted Rick Warren, when he said, everybody needs a buddy. I mean, that is ringing true, I think, for every expert that we're talking with, is that we're so much stronger together, you know? So Jenny, we're fired up to have you. We're going to take just a 1-minute break because Dee's going to stop her recording, then I'm going to record you. But while we're doing that, Dee, I'll let you say goodbye in this segment, but stay with us, guys, because Jenny's going to be kicking us off. And she looks like she's got some fun stuff for us to share. So.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm super excited to have Jenny come on the back end of Dr. Hyman, because Sean will tell a little bit about her background in a moment, but I just want to say Jenny has a wealth of background in nutrition. She's been in the field for over 20 years. She has several best-selling books out. She travels the world speaking on nutrition. She's with TriBest, which is an amazing company, and she is our chief nutrition expert at Rise. I had the pleasure of serving with her at the Daniel Plan as one of our signature chefs at the Daniel Plan. But I think what great timing, we decided to put her right after Mark Hyman, because Mark talked about all the principles and how fun now just to be able to jump and take a deep dive into Jenny's kitchen and be able to see some of the magic of how she makes this come alive. So with that, I'm going to stop recording this session.